No, I said stubbornly, and just to show how beautiful or determined I was, I picked up the bat. But I had gone too far. Don't worry, I replied tartly. I never will. And with that, I forever closed any possibility of entering the boys' world again. Yes, with this, I was reading Funny Boy Salvadorai, which I teach in my college. And with this, RG has stopped pretending. With this, RG has decided that enough is enough. He will not go to the boys' world anymore. He will no longer play cricket. He will not play cricket anymore. Now, uh, with regard to Sham Salvador's Funny Boy, I would like to ask you a very simple question. Why does RG have to go to cricket or cricketing field? Why can't he play bright game? Why would he be disallowed from participating in the bright game? Most people make a huge mistake of differentiating between sex and gender. They said, okay, they often say that sex is biological and gender is cultural. Tell me one thing. How does anyone tell anyone that he or she is male or female? Is it because of the presence or absence of something between the legs, right? Now, if a trans man becomes pregnant with child in his belly and he has a penis, would the trans man be called a man or woman? If a trans woman impregnates a trans man because the trans man does not have a penis and the trans woman does not have ovary, then who is man? Who is woman? This kind of homophobia in queer studies is called transphobia. Why do we have to decide whether the human being is male or female? Why do we have to decide the sex of human being? First question. The second question is, on what basis? You would say, if the penis is present between the two legs, it is male. If the penis is not present between the two legs, it is female. Okay. Now, how would you explain the sex of the trans man? And how do you explain the sex of the trans woman then? You see how liquid or how gaseous or how fluid our concept of body is. And because body is concept, of sexed identity is so liquid, is so fluid, we cannot decide the gender. Because if the body cannot be decided sexed male or female, what gender do we expect that body to perform? And if we cannot expect the gender performance to be fixed, to be determined, to be stabilized, we do not have any possibility of deciding the desire. That if the body is not decided sexed male, we cannot decide the gender either, that is masculine. If the gender is not decided masculine, we cannot decide the sexuality, we cannot decide the desire of that respective gender, which is unfixed, because the base upon which the gender was decided, the body is unstable. And that's why gender becomes unstable, because the sex and the body is unstable, and desire and sexuality becomes unstable because the gender is unstable. With this theorization, let us go back to the passage that I was reading from Shamshal Badurai's Funny Boy. Arji was forced to join the boys in the cricketing field, the public space, which is masculine phase. Now, when Arji joins the public space, that is the masculine space, Arji is also disallowed from being participating, from being a participant into the bride game. For me, this is an act of violence. Why? Because of simple reason that any individual is not being allowed to decide his identity. Arji is an individual. I don't think there is any doubt about that for all of you. If Arji is an individual, then Arji should have the right, Odhikar, to decide his sex and gender. And then Arji should have the right to decide his desire, that is sexuality. We would be celebrating Independence Day in a couple of days' time. Isn't it ironical that while we celebrate Independence Day nationally, where a single individual does not have the freedom to decide his sex, gender, and desire? We are celebrating Independence Day, but a single individual does not have a right to his identity. I cannot decide my own identity. I cannot decide my sexed identity, my gendered identity. I cannot decide my sexuality, that is whether I want to be heterosexual or homosexual or bisexual. It's all of you who will tell me that since you have something between your legs, you have to go and play cricket. And then you cannot complain that you have played under the sweltering sun, because you have performed masculinity, right? And then everybody would expect you to select a girl because you are male and masculine, so obviously you will be desiring female and feminine. And because you must be heterosexual no matter what. So we don't care who you are. We don't care what is your preferential identity. We don't care what is your desire. We will decide your sex. We will decide your gender. We will decide your sexuality. And we will thrust that sexuality, thrust that gender, and thrust that sexed identity on your body as a official সরকারি stamp, and you have to carry that সরকারি stamp throughout your life, believing that this is your identity. Seriously, really. And then we would go about celebrating Independence Day on 15th of August, because our nation is independent, where not a single individual does not have independence of his own body, but the whole body is independent. Yes, the body is independent, and that's why the body of the nation is motherland, and that's why the thought is always male. That's why patriotism, right? And before I conclude, I would like to refer back to a beautiful Bollywood blockbuster called Dangal. I think Amir Khan stars it. And there we have a character that Amir Khan plays of a father who has fathered many daughters. Yes. And he wants all the daughters to be fulfilling his dream of being a gymnast. Now, I would ask 3 basic questions. 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Who is this father that Amir Khan plays? Is it the nation that always decides our sex, gender, and desire? Like it was decided by the central government of India in the free radio by Salman Rushdie on people like Ramani. Number 2, who are these girls? Who are these daughters, I should say, of that father, of that great father? Are they citizen like you and me? Are they citizen like you and me, whose identities are always being twisted, molested, harassed in a shape that only state loves? So if the state loves this shape, I'll have to fit in. If the state loves this shape, I'll have to fit in. If the state loves this shape, I'll have to fit in. So my identity would be twisted and curved and squeezed into the shape that the state is happy with and the state approves of. Right. Third question, and the last question of my YouTube video, that is this father, which I think is very close to government and interpellation, the symbol of patriarchy? Is this father the symbol of heteropatriarchy? Is this father the symbol of heteronormativity that always heterosexualizes all the children, that always creates masculine gender at the top and feminine gender at the bottom? So whoever is a successful female must be masculinized and thereby become acceptable in public space. Can a woman remain a woman and be acceptable? Or does a woman have to be masculinized like Mardani 2, Kiyanka, Thappar, all those movies? Does a woman have to be masculinized within the rubric of patriarchy so that the woman becomes masculinized and acceptable and, as Foucault would say, culturally recognizable from being a docile body? Then movies like Dangal, Thappar, Pink, Kiyanka, Mardani 2, They pretend to be feminist, but they are smuggling patriarchy under the carpet of popular culture. With this thought, I plead you to stay back home, take care of your family, read good books. I know thinking is difficult, but try and think. And if you go out with your mask and protective gear. Stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. This is Rajeshwara Mondal signing off. Good night.